September 21, 2025. A clear afternoon over southern Lebanon. Israeli drones locked onto a suspected Hezbollah target near the border town of Bint Jbeil. Intelligence claimed a senior militant commander was on the move. Two drones streaked across the sky. One hit the intended vehicle. The second struck a black Mercedes carrying a Lebanese-American family of 5. Within seconds, the car was engulfed in flames that a father and his 3 children, all U.S. citizens, were killed instantly. The mother was left critically injured. Israel admitted responsibility, but insisted the civilian deaths were unintentional. To the world, the images told another story. A burning car, children's toys among the wreckage, grieving relatives at a hospital. What should have been a tactical strike against Hezbollah had become a full-blown diplomatic crisis. Lebanese president condemned the attack as a massacre of civilians. Officials claimed the family had no ties to Hezbollah, accusing Israel of violating the fragile ceasefire signed just months earlier. Lebanon reported over 4,500 Israeli violations of that truce since late 2024. This one, they argued, was the most serious yet, an attack not just on Lebanon, but on the idea that civilians could ever be safe. Israel expressed regret but defended its actions. Military spokespeople accused Hezbollah of using civilian areas for cover and promised an internal investigation. Yet the operation exposed the razor-thin line between counter-terrorism and catastrophe. Even within Israel, critics warned the strike risked eroding international support at a time when the country could least afford it. For the United States, Bint Jbeil was a nightmare scenario. Israel is America's closest ally in the Middle East, receiving billions in military aid each year. But now, American citizens had been killed by weapons likely built with U.S. funding. At first, Washington hesitated. State Department spokespeople claimed there was no confirmed evidence the victims were Americans, contradicting Lebanese officials and eyewitnesses. The backlash was immediate. Lawmakers from both parties demanded accountability. Republicans accused the administration of appeasing Israel. Progressive Democrats renewed calls to review military aid and impose stricter conditions on arms sales. The timing could not have been worse for the White House. Across the world, outrage grew quickly. UNICEF condemned the deaths of 3 children as unacceptable. Human rights groups called for independent investigations. In Europe, leaders expressed concern but avoided direct criticism, reluctant to damage relations with Washington or Jerusalem. In the Arab world, protests erupted in Beirut, Amman, and Cairo. Demonstrators accused the U.S. of hypocrisy, defending human rights in Ukraine while ignoring civilian deaths in Lebanon and Gaza. Russia and China seized the opportunity to undermine American credibility, portraying Washington as unwilling to hold Israel accountable because of political convenience. Meanwhile, along the Israel-Lebanon border, tensions rose. Hezbollah vowed retaliation, though analysts speculated the group would avoid all-out war before Lebanon's elections. Still, the ceasefire looked weaker by the day. For decades, American support for Israel has been virtually unconditional. Bint Jbeil changed the conversation. Some members of Congress demanded investigations into whether U.S.-supplied weapons were used in the strike. A few even suggested temporarily suspending arms shipments, pointing to 2016, when Washington froze weapons sales to Saudi Arabia over civilian deaths in Yemen. Arab-American communities in key U.S. states voiced anger, warning the administration that shielding Israel from accountability could have electoral consequences. For the first time in years, bipartisan criticism of Israel surfaced in Washington, a rare sign that military aid once seen as untouchable might soon face limits. The Bint Jbeil tragedy drew inevitable comparisons to the 2012 Benghazi attack, where 4 Americans, including a U.S. ambassador, were killed in Libya. That incident haunted Washington politics for years, but this time was different. Benghazi was blamed on terrorists. Bint Jbeil pointed directly at Israel, a longtime ally and beneficiary of tens of billions in American military assistance. How could Washington demand accountability from adversaries while excusing mistakes by its closest friend? As the November election approached, Republicans accused the administration of weakness. Progressive Democrats pushed to end what they called a blank check policy toward Israel. Both parties sought to use public anger for political advantage. For the victims' families, however, politics offered no comfort. Their loved ones were gone, collateral damage in a conflict far from home. Some analysts believe Bint Jbeil could mark a turning point in U.S. Israel relations that if investigations confirm American-made weapons killed U.S. citizens, pressure for accountability will only grow. Washington might face a painful choice: continue shielding Israel diplomatically or risk a rupture in one of its most important alliances. Either path carries risks. For decades, U.S. leaders have balanced strategic interests with human rights concerns. Bint Jbeil makes that balance harder than ever. For civilians in southern Lebanon, the tragedy was not about geopolitics, but about lives lost, families shattered, and a peace that feels more fragile with each passing day. As the smoke clears, one truth remains: the drone that struck Ben Zibbel left behind more than wreckage. They left behind questions about war, alliances, and the price of a peace built on weapons and warnings instead of trust. And until those questions are answered, the region and Washington will remain on edge.